going to have a second term. And then he gave me a copy of the report. And as he talked more and more about it, I sat there flipping through the report and looking through it. And to be frank, it looked very amateurish to me. Didn't have the credentials of the people involved, but I didn't see any real qualifications. And the statements were made very conclusory, like, these machines were designed to, engage in fraud or something to that effect, but I didn't see any supporting information for it. And I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality if he really believes this stuff. On the other hand, when I went into this and would, tell him how crazy some of these allegations were, there was never an indication of interest in what the actual facts were. My opinion then and my opinion now is that the election was not stolen by fraud. And I haven't seen anything since the election that changes my mind on that, including the 2000 Mules movie.
Well, maybe you can assess that 2000 Mules since people are talking about that.
Well, I mean, just in a nutshell, I just think the GBI was unimpressed with it. And I was similarly unimpressed with it because I think I was holding my fire on that to see what the photographic evidence was, because I thought, well, hell, if they have a lot of photographs of the same person dumping a lot of ballots in different boxes, that's hard to explain. So I wanted to see what the photographic evidence was, but the cell phone data is singularly unimpressive. I mean, it basically, if you take 2 million cell phones and figure out where they are physically in a big city like Atlanta or wherever, just by definition, you're going to find many hundreds of them have passed by and spent time in the vicinity of these boxes. And the premise that, if you go by a box, 5 boxes or whatever it was, that's a mule is just indefensible. It by definition, you're going to have hundreds of this. I mean, I saw one contractor said, we figured out that our truck alone would account for 6 cell phone signals. This was some kind of contractor, and our route would take us by these things on a regular basis. So but then when the movie came out, I think the photographic evidence in it was completely I mean, there was a little bit of it, but it was lacking. It didn't establish widespread illegal harvesting.
Okay, welcome. It's the War Room, Monday, 13 June, year of our Lord 2022. That's Bill Barr. We still haven't gotten, and they still haven't really asked. Bill Barr told the president, and it was that he did a report. He had a report that the Justice Department did a study, and he conclusively determined that there was no voter fraud. We're still waiting for that report. Bill Barr is a liar, perjured himself, and that'll all be dealt with going forward. He's a total and complete establishment scumbag. I said at the time that he was appointed that it was a disaster. I thought he did de minimis on the impeachment, although he tried to take all the credit from the real people that did the heavy lifting on the impeachment, like Rudy Giuliani and others. But I asked Catherine Engelbrecht, really the brains and back of this incredible movie, 2000 Mules, and not just the movie, but actually to kind of think through exactly how you could go catch these guys in the voter fraud, which is obvious and evidence. And Bill Barr throws out he spins every kind of little argument that has truthiness in it, what John Suarez called truthiness, but it's not the truth. Catherine Engelbrecht, Bill Barr challenged you today, not just the movie, but let's leave the movie aside. He really challenged you and True the Vote. And I think what Greg and the other professionals have been on top of this, both your data, the photography, but really the whole construct of it, that this was silly and couldn't be used in kind of a non-event. Catherine Engelbrecht, ma'am, what say you?
You use the term spin. I mean, it's the spinning of a coward. And I wish that that weren't the case. But for him to start out his comments by saying that he was basing it largely on what he saw from the GBI, the GBI was first in line in the coward department, not willing to take a look, not willing to even acknowledge that they had jurisdiction, much less looking at it until it became politically useful for them to try to throw us under the bus. I think what we are seeing from Bill Barr and certainly others along the J6 lineup there, and you've said it already, they can't handle the truth. Our process is broken. Federal government and the state political apparatchiks don't want anything to do with this because it's a nice layer of insulation between them and the American people. Meanwhile, 80-some% now, I think, of Americans are saying something is wrong with our elections. And, beware the fury of a risen people. This is not going to go well if they continue to push this aside. Our process is broken and Americans are demanding answers. And if the best they can do is point out that there wasn't sufficient video to interview Bill Barr, then let's sit down and talk about it. Rather than take cheap shots, let's sit down and talk about it. Glad to do it anytime. Name the place.
Has Bill Barr ever reached out to you about the film that's been out, 6 weeks? Has Bill Barr ever reached out to you? Yes or no?
No.
Has Bill Barr, any people associated with Bill Barr, ever asked to sit down and interview you and Greg and getting back and go through the details of your digital information and your footage, ma'am?
No.
Has the committee reached out to you to have you, Greg, and Dinesh address the committee or talk to the staff of the committee, show the material I have and the material that didn't make the film, to go through it systematically? Has the committee reached out to you?
No.
So the committee is basing all this. They're laughing and they're basing all this off of Bill Barr, a cheap spin shot, which the GBI is obviously a spin. They're very nervous there. So the committee has never done. This is the first time that you've heard any interest of the committee. Obviously, they have an interest because she said everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. That's coming
right.
from that's one of the left wing. It's one of the left wing hacks in the J6. Would you be prepared, ma'am, you and Greg and Dinesh, would you three be prepared to go to the committee staff and to sit with the committee on national television and walk through your facts, ma'am?
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay, fine. I think it's very interesting that they spun it. I want to go back to Bill Barr first. GBI. This is Bill Barr. This is what Bill Barr calls an investigation. He picks up the phone and calls another crony. The hacks at the FBI, the hacks at these local places is hacks. They're lifers. Okay, lifers, always trying to cover their ass. That's what they're in the business in. Tell me about GBI and the relationship with GBI when they understood exactly what you were doing and what you had thought through that they had not, ma'am.
Well, we presented our information to the GBI in first part of May of 2021, and it was still early in our investigation. And so we presented it by way of showing what we consider to be a predicate for an investigation. Look at where we're headed. We think that this is something you should look at. And we went into that environment really believing that they too would want to understand what the data was showing and to be a part of an investigation or to lead, dare I say, in an investigation. That meeting then was followed by, I think, 7 months of their bobbing and weaving and not being willing to meet with us again. And Vic Reynolds, the head of the GBI, giving every excuse, but chiefly among them, that he didn't have the jurisdiction. It was never about the fact that our data was bad or that he had questions. He just went radio silent until President Trump began to name check us at rallies. When that occurred, in fact, the first time it occurred in Georgia, it was followed by a letter from Vic Reynolds appearing in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, slamming us. And then that has been for the GBI, a touch point that the GBI and the rest of the leftists continue to come back to and point out. So there's no explanation other than that they've tried to cover it up and continue to try to cover it up.
Catherine, we're going to have Darren Beattie on here in the bottom of the hour after Katie Arrington and Jim Marchant. But Darren Beattie makes the point that Bill Barr sitting there belly laughing off of the data itself. Correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine Engelbrecht. Is that not the same exact construct and types of data that they've gotten to accuse these individuals on the 6th of January and have many of them in jail, ma'am?
100%. So if the data is not good, then, some jail cells ought to be open by sundown. They started, if I understand their process correctly, they started looking at 1,000 feet out and then culling in. We started at 100 feet and began to narrow the funnel. There's processes that are followed in the course of an investigation. For them to say that what we have done is whatever the term was he used, laughable, lightweight, whatever it was, is outrageous. And anybody that's honestly looking at what this is, it's just political theater, and they're hoping that America will forget, and I pray that they won't.
Bill Barr has to understand something. We're never going to forget, and we're going to control things starting in January, and we're coming after Bill Barr. Okay, Bill Barr is a liar. Bill Barr perjured himself, and he's trying to directly destroy the Trump movement and President Trump. He may think it's a laughing matter. Hey, we don't. We don't.
No, we don't.
One last thing. The last thing he said, the spin there about he's talked to some executives and big trucking companies, and that is complete and total nonsense, is it not, ma'am?
It's yeah, absolutely. One of the things, the movie had us on screen, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes maybe, but that was the result of 8 or 9 hours worth of an interview. That was the result of 18 months worth of an investigation that continues to this very moment. That said, there's a lot of stuff that didn't get included. One of those things, and we're trying to figure out how to kind of pick up some of the edits and put them together so that people can see them. One of the things that we talked about was our quality control that went into it. We looked at the data the week before. It's varied a little bit jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but on balance, it was the week before the early election period started, and then the week after, to make sure that what we were seeing were patterns that were distinct during early election and weren't just typical routes for a contractor or whatnot. That's just one of the many, many scrubs that we put our data through to make sure that those kinds of examples of a truck driving by, and if that truck also drove by 10 drop boxes, they would also have to go through nonprofit organizations. And there were so many thresholds that we put in place. Glad to talk to anybody about it. Our elections are under
Here's
siege.
my point. Catherine Engelbrecht's been doing this for a living for a while. She's a very serious person. You don't see her run around half-cocked and half-baked. If Bill Barr had any interest, as he's supposed to be Attorney General, and Mr. Investigation is so serious, and they're taking his word for it, he would have picked the phone up and said, let me have a briefing on your 18-month investigation. Let me have let's go 8 hours and let me go through it line by line. Here's the point. We take this very seriously because 13 or 14 generations of this country have sacrificed to hand us the republic we have. And we're not going to be blown off by somebody like Bill Barr. Bill Barr, we're coming for you, bro. You're sitting there lying about this. If you had any decency whatsoever, you'd have reached out to Catherine Engelbrecht before you smeared her. You'd have reached out to Dinesh D'Souza before you smeared him. You'd have reached out to Greg Phillips where you smeared them, and the entire team of an 18-month investigation is still going on, of 8 or 10 hours of interviews that you could do and sit there and find out the details in the second and third order magnitude of what they've already thought through before sitting there. And so this is the type of crap that we're stopping. You're just not going to sit there and phone this in, throw it a couple lines. We're going to deconstruct this, and we're going to rub your nose in it, and then we're going to come after you legally. We're not just going to sit here anymore. The days of the deplorables and the days of MAGA just sitting there and our betters telling us what it is. Barr, I've forgotten more about this stuff than you know. And Catherine Engelbrecht has forgotten more about it than all of us will know. And that's why she's dedicated 18 months of her life. This is not about Donald J. Trump. This is about a republic. We're either going to play by a set of rules that people agree to and we play to them, or we're not. And we're the rules players. But you're going to play to them too, buddy. You're just not going to come in here with your fat face and just kind of, smirk up there. It's not going to work anymore. We're not going to tolerate it. We're
No.
not going to accept it. We're going to go back with facts. Catherine Engelbrecht.
Yeah, I mean, the American people have had enough. Our elections are not meant to be perpetually broken, yet they are because it is politically useful. And America is waking up to this. We can do better. We are the laughingstock of other industrialized countries around the world who manage their elections with a process that balances security and transparency and convenience and all of those efforts that are put into a serious process. Our process has become a sideshow, and it can't continue on. We are perilously close to losing that which binds us together, that free and fair vote. And you know, I was disappointed to see Bill Barr do it, not surprised. It's been our experience with law enforcement to this point. And I'll tell you something that we're very excited about getting ready to announce. We are going to be working with sheriff's associations and law enforcement associations at the sheriff and local level across this country to help to preserve the rule of law when it comes to elections. So we're looking forward to that. We're very hopeful that that will be a useful outlet because mercy knows state and federal have proven to be absent.
You said laughing stock, Catherine Engelbrecht. Let me tell you, people around the world, you don't think the hedge fund people, you don't think the guys in these other countries know this was stolen and that this is a laughing stock and Biden's a laughing stock? Look at the lack of respect they show him. From the mullahs in Iran to the Chinese Communist Party, one of the reasons they understand what we understand, he's illegitimate. And if the controlled opposition of the big law firms like Bill Barr, let me put all the big law firms on notice. We're not playing your game anymore. We're playing a new game, and you're going to have to abide by these new rules because we're coming in hot, and we're going to use the rule of law to do it. You have perjured yourself. You've lied to people. You've cost this nation. Look at the economic destruction that's happened, and it's because of people like Bill Barr. Bill Barr, you'll go down infamy, and I'll go through your book because I have. We'll go through line by line of the lies and misrepresentations that you have in print, bro. So remember one day, you're under oath when you say this. You were under oath today when you said this. Catherine Engelbrecht, any closing comments, observations?
You're right. You're right. This game is far from over, and Americans just need to stay engaged and stay alert. The establishment, the elites are counting on us to grow weary and to fall away. We cannot do it. And I am very pleased to tell you that based on what's coming into True the Vote, quite the opposite is happening. We're hearing from people on all sides of the aisle, people from all over the world who are saying, please stay the course. And that's exactly what we intend to do. We're glad to talk to Bill Barr, anybody on the J6 committee. Let's go. Our elections are too important to let it continue to be the joke that it's become.
Catherine Engelbrecht is tough as boot leather and will never back down. Catherine Engelbrecht, how do people get to you on social media? How they get over to see this film and get access to True the Vote?
You can check us out at truethevote.org. We're on Rumble. We're on Instagram. We're on Truth Social at True the Vote. And you can check us out at the movie at 2000mules.com. Lots more to come in the days ahead. We are just getting started. And America, let's just stick together. The wind is at our backs. There has been a momentum shift. We are winning. Keep moving forward.
Victory begets victory. Catherine Engelbrecht, thank you so much for taking time away today. Come join us in the War Room Battleground.
Thanks.
Let me bring in Katie Arrington. Katie, you saw this. You know, Katie Arrington, I think you know better than anybody right now what controlled opposition is. What's the mentality of the Bill Barrs of the world? You're seeing it in Nikki Haley. You're seeing it in Lindsey Graham, and you're seeing it in the opposition that you're going up against tomorrow in South Carolina in this primary. Tell us about it, ma'am. Do I not have Katie Arrington? Okay, let me get Jim Marchant. Is Jim Marchant there? Hey, Jim. Jim, you know Catherine Engelbrecht and the team. You're running for Secretary of State in Nevada. Tell us what your thoughts are of her interview right there.
Unbelievable, but not surprising. And, you know, we did the same thing with my coalition. We actually told CNN and New York Times, would you like to see the evidence? We have the evidence, and we have asked them many times to get together. Let's meet. and we'll show you the evidence. And never have they taken us up on our offer. We actually sent a formal letter to the New York Times inviting them to come see the evidence, and nobody's taken us up on it yet. And so I feel her pain, and that's the way they work. They, that's the way they work forever. And, we just got to keep fighting and get our message out. And Catherine's right. The American people see this, and once their votes actually count, this is going to be a different game. The deep state establishment on both sides, Democrat and Republican, their gig is over if we ever have a fair election.
I want to repeat this, and I want you to go slow, because you've been attacked outside of Engelbrecht. You've been attacked probably more than, and hey, they're after Karamo and Fincham, and everybody puts their head up, but you, because you put the coalition together, but particularly Nevada, how crooked that game is out there. Oh. I want you to repeat it slowly. You have reached out to mainstream media to say, hey, I have the receipts. We have the facts. Let's walk you through it. Am I correct to say they're no takers? That's
exactly right. When CNN ambushed me a couple of months ago, they didn't put this on air, but I told them, I said, that's what they said. You have no evidence. Everybody said there's no evidence. I said, we do have the evidence. Would you like to see it? And they say they don't say anything, but they never take us up on our offer. That's true.
Jim, tell us about the race tomorrow. Where do we stand in Nevada? And then I want to talk about the coalition. But I know they're carpet bombing. These are supposedly Republicans. They're carpet bombing. Hold it. They're saying you're a Democrat. You've never voted. And the worst of all, for the good folks out in Nevada who are the best in the world, they're saying you're a vegan. That's what hurts. You're a Democrat. Yeah. You've never voted, and you're a vegan.
Yeah, they said I'm a vegan, and that hurts the worst of all. I mean, no, I'm kidding. I actually like vegans. I eat salads and stuff like that, but I also eat steaks. And anybody that knows me knows that I love steak. So to call me a vegan is unbelievable. But they called me everything under the sun, and it's not sticky. We're still tied. They've outspent me 10-1, and we're still tied in the polls, and we still have a good chance of winning this election. And we just need everybody in Nevada to come out that is patriots, that are MAGA, that are Trump lovers, and come out and vote for me, because all of these things that they're saying about me are 100% lies. And I don't know how they can get away with it, but they just do somehow. And, we don't play their game. We don't get in the mud like they do. And I just can't do it. I'm an honest guy, and we're not doing it. We're fighting, and we're fighting to the bitter end.
Okay. I want to verify that I know Jim Marchant, and he's a carnivore. Okay. Jim Marchant is a war room certified carnivore. Jim, but this is what I want people, because this ties to what Bill Barr kind of laughed Catherine Engelbrecht off of ever doing any due diligence. This is coming from Republicans. Remember, the Republican establishment likes being the controlled opposition. They like, as long as they can keep getting their tax cuts, they like being the controlled opposition. Jim Marchant, they're destroying him personally. The politics of personal destruction. This is a Republican dark money group, Jim Marchant.
It is. It's the Romney-Bush clan that are working. Actually, they're Democrats in Republican clothing. I mean, that's literally what they are. And we have the Harry Reid Republicans out here in Nevada, and they absolutely cannot have me take this office, because their power is gone when that happens. Because if we have a fair election here in Nevada, the people of Nevada will actually speak and throw them out, and their power will be gone. And their gig is up, and they know it. And that's why they are spending $2 million defaming and slandering me. And that's how they think they're gonna win. But I think the people of Nevada are smarter than that. And come tomorrow, we will have a victory.
Okay, Jim, how do people get to you to find out where you're going to be, how they get to you on social media, how they find out about the campaign? It's down tomorrow's game day. So how did they do that?
Yeah, JimMarchant.com. And believe me, we could use every penny we can get. We're up against Goliath here, and we need every donation we can get to try to buy some more text or some more, digital ads, stuff like that, just to try to compete. And so JimMarchant.com, JIMMARCHANT. And please support us, because it's vitally important that not only I get elected here in Nevada, but our coalition members also get elected. And that website, by the way, is SOS4America.com, and it's the number 4, SOS4America.com. We could both use the help.
Jim Marchant, you're a patriot and a hero. Thank you very much. Look forward to checking things out tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it.
If you're in Nevada and you're a Trump supporter, make sure you go to his website, find out where Jim's going to be. If you go knock on doors, get people out to vote, get out to vote is tomorrow. Going to be very, very important. Jim Marchant running for Secretary of State. Lead story in Politico this morning was how bad Jim Marchant is, how dangerous he is to the apparatus. Okay, short commercial break. We got Darren Beattie. We have Ben Harnwell. And hopefully we'll try to work out the technical issues, get Katie Harrington back up here. Short commercial break. Back War Room Battleground in just a moment.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to go. I think we got it worked out with Katie Arrington in South Carolina. Katie, the controlled opposition has been all over President Trump today in this hearing. Bill Barr, the whole cast of characters there. Nobody in this country knows more about controlled opposition than Katie Arrington. You're running against Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley, and, of course, your opponent in this vitally important primary in South Carolina 1 tomorrow. Tell us about it.
So, hey, tomorrow morning it's game on, and we need to win this election for President Trump. We need to win it for the conservative agenda. We are fighting the D.C. swamp like nobody's business right now. I have, I think, $2.5 million of special interest money piling into this race because they do not want us in Washington. I need the war room warriors to come and help me. Get out the vote. June 14th, tomorrow is our primary. We have to send Nancy Mace packets.
So how do people now go to, give us your site. I want all the volunteers down in the Gamecock State in South Carolina 1 to put their shoulder to the wheel. Tomorrow is very important. This is a proxy war of Nikki Haley against President Trump. As importantly, Lindsey Graham, the reason we have these red flag laws and all this is Lindsey Graham's been working nonstop behind the scenes to get these gun laws in there. So if you want to show Lindsey Graham you don't support him on the gun laws, you got to go out and vote for Arrington tomorrow. How do people find out and get out and work with your get out the vote apparatus?
So one thing I want to mention, Steve, as well, the get out the vote, go to katie4sc.com. That's KATIEFORSC.com. But you know what Nancy Mace and Nikki Haley said yesterday at an event? It's much like Hillary Clinton and the deplorables. She said that the people supporting me were nobodies. The political elite in this country think that they're running the show, and we have got to show them it is we, the people, that are going to show up and vote. We, the people, want our Second Amendment. We, the people, know the election was stolen, and we are not taking it anymore.
Hold it. Hang on. She said that you're great supporter, the MAGA supporters, ultra MAGA,
The
America
ultra
First, the
were
deplorables.
nobodies.
She called them nobodies.
Yes. She called them the nobodies. No. Send her home.
Wow.
I beg of you all, help me out on this campaign. I'm so sick about it. It's ridiculous.
Katie, one more time. What's the website people go to put their shoulder to the wheel?
Katie4sc.com. That's KATIEFORSC.com. And you know what? We're not nobodies. We are the people. And how dare they say that? How dare they talk about the MAGA supporters like that?
Well, let's show them tomorrow. Katie Arrington, fight on. You punch well above your weight, ma'am. Katie Arrington, one tough hombre. I've had a show with Catherine Engelbrecht and Katie Arrington. That's two pretty tough gals. I want to play the cold open again. I got Darren Beattie, who stepped away and joined us with Ben Harnwell. I want to play the cold open of, I want the audience once again to be able to see and hear Bill Barr?
To have a second term. And then he gave me a copy of the report. And as he talked more and more about it, I sat there flipping through the report and looking through it. And to be frank, it looked very amateurish to me. Didn't have the credentials of the people involved, but I didn't see any real qualifications. And the statements were made very conclusory, like, these machines were designed to, engage in fraud or something to that effect, but I didn't see any supporting information for it. And I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality if he really believes this stuff. On the other hand, when I went into this and would tell him how crazy some of these allegations were, there was never an indication of interest in what the actual facts were. My opinion then and my opinion now is that the election was not stolen by fraud. And I haven't seen anything since the election that changes my mind on that, including the 2000 Mules movie.
Well, maybe you can assess that 2,000 mules since people are talking about that.
Well, I mean, just in a nutshell, I just think the GBI was unimpressed with it. And I was similarly unimpressed with it because I think I was holding my fire on that to see what the photographic evidence was, because I thought, well, hell, if they have a lot of photographs of the same person dumping a lot of ballots in different boxes, that's hard to explain. So I wanted to see what the photographic evidence was. But the cell phone data is singularly unimpressive. I mean, it basically, if you take 2 million cell phones and figure out where they are physically in a big city like Atlanta or wherever, just by definition, you're going to find many hundreds of them have passed by and spent time in the vicinity of these boxes. And the premise that, if you go by a box, 5 boxes or whatever it was, that's a mule is just indefensible. It by definition, you're going to have hundreds of this. I mean, I saw one contractor said, we figured out that our truck alone would account for 6 cell phone signals. This was some kind of contractor, and our route would take us by these things on a regular basis. So but then when the movie came out,
this is all nonsense. This is all nonsense, lies and spin. He didn't even have the common courtesy to reach out to Catherine Engelbrecht, to reach out to Greg, to reach out to Dinesh D'Souza, to reach out to anybody. This is where we are. Darren Beattie, walk me through from the Revolver's perspective that's been all over this. I'm curious. I thought that this technology, which Catherine Engelbrecht says they take it all the way back to the root. It's not anybody driving by in trucks. That's absurd. And it's obscene that he would put that out there and if the committee is so cocky and laughing at it, bring on Catherine. Just a few minutes ago volunteered to come forward with Greg and with Dinesh D'Souza to come forward and present all their information on national television. Let's go. Let's roll. Where are you? You all talking about indicting Trump? What you talking about indicting Trump? What, criminal intent, willful intent? We got the receipts. You got nothing. Bill Barr today can't produce anything he's got. Nothing. Zero. He lied about a report. He made a couple of phone calls to these hack cronies of his, and he got what he wanted to hear because he wanted Trump gone. He's part of the controlled opposition. He wanted Trump gone. Darren Beattie.
Look, Steve, as you know, Revolver.news has had Bill Barr's number from the very beginning. In fact, when a lot of people were still optimistic about Barr, they said, oh, yeah, he was a great Trump pick. We were putting out pieces saying, what the hell is he doing with all of these BLM riots? He's going out of his way not to stop them and not to use his authority as the attorney general to stop any of these riots. So he's been a failure and a letdown along a number of dimensions. And this performance, if you can even call it that, is not a surprise. We need to keep in mind the whole purpose of this, or one aspect of this, is to shut people up regarding the election. That's a huge objective here. And in fact, if you'll recall, the leaked documents about this now somewhat defunct Department of Homeland Security Disinformation Governance Board, it's set up to censor so-called disinformation pertaining to the election. And so if the DHS had got its way, movies like 2000 Mules wouldn't have been allowed really to be put out there and disseminated at all. And so it's no surprise that even back at this time, Bill Barr is taking aim and not really giving them the opportunity to say, okay, here's exactly what the technology is. Here's how we used it. Now give your refutation. This technology absolutely exists. And I can't attest to how it was used specifically for the purposes of 2000 Mules. I'll let the people involved with that speak on that. But this technology is absolutely exists and is absolutely available. It's not some kind of weird junk science of the sort that Bill Barr was suggesting.
Aren't they, Darren? You've done more investigative reporting, you and Julie Kelly, on the situation on the 6th itself, what this hearing's about. But just a note, have they reached out to Revolver to have all of your articles and get briefings and backgrounds? Have the committee reached out to you of all the voluminous reporting that you've done, sir?
Look, Revolver.news is the place where you can go and read all of the things that the committee does not want you to see. There's so many damning aspects of the story, and there's much of the story, frankly, that hasn't even been told that's even more damning. So can stay tuned in the coming months. But no, they're absolutely not interested. They're not interested in the core central questions that get to the bottom of what really happened on January 6th. And just to take a small example that actually has profound implications to solving that puzzle. What about the pipe bomber? What if you ran the 2000 Mules technology to help identify who the pipe bomber is? Has the January 6th committee exhibited any interest in doing that? Has anyone internally within law enforcement bothered to say, we know where this pipe bomber was at what specific time? Let's figure out, let's ping the cell phone and figure out who it was. This technology absolutely exists, so it's just a matter of what the government wants public and what they don't want public. And everything that gets to the core of the damning truth of what really happened on January 6th, the January 6th committee is set up precisely to make sure that none of that sees the light of day.
I just want to make sure I get this right. But with all the great original investigative reporting you've done and the synthesis and putting things together, the committee has not reached out to you to go through any of the things you have, any of the documents you have, any of the analysis you have. They have not reached out to you.
No, and I'm actually quite glad they haven't, because the only circumstance imaginable in which I can think of them reaching out to me would be in the form of a subpoena.
I would love to have you on national TV going through it. I don't think they'd be able to handle it. I want to go back to the technology. Isn't the technology, and look, I'm not a technical expert and you're not, but just it is essentially the same technology they used to roll up, at least the initial roll up of these January 6 participants. Am I missing that, Darren Beattie?
Absolutely. A lot of the forensic work that the authorities have been deploying in order to catch all of these alleged domestic terrorists has used just the same type of technology. And frankly, it raises the obvious question as to why they haven't done this to identify the pipe bomber, who is probably one of the key components to this breaking this whole story. Now they don't want to talk about the pipe bomber at all. And so it's another example of this incredibly selective use of not only the force of the government, the prosecutorial power, but also the investigative power. As to, in some cases, they really want to go after people. They really want to dig up everything they can. They want to use all of the resources available to them. And in other cases, zero, total silence. They'd rather us forget the entire thing.
How come, and look, it's not an official committee. We know that by the structure of it and how they broke the rules to do it. But how can they not, at least, even in a show trial, bring Ray up and at least get on the table what they knew in advance and federal participation, DHS, FBI, and other assets they had participation in this? How could even they think they can get away with that?
Well, I mean, maybe they have. It Depends on what our definition of getting away is. I think, thanks to a lot of the reporting we've done, it's part of the national consciousness, at least, that there's this possibility that the feds were involved. But, they've done also a pretty good job at keeping this out of the official record. And you would think, even from a kind of a more benign, and that is to say, not the full truth perspective, they would be a little bit more interested in how on that day the US Capitol and the Capitol grounds enjoyed uniquely poor security. It isn't even that it didn't have security commensurate to the event that was going to take place and all of the information that they were privy to. They didn't even have the security of an average day on January 6th. How do you explain that? There's no interest in any accountability for how that could take place. And so it's clear this is simply a kind of show trial. It's all set up for the proximate purpose of kneecapping Trump and anyone who's Trump adjacent in the coming elections, and for the broader and more long-term purpose of serving as a pretext to reconfigure the national security state against the American people. And guess what? This spear, at the tip of the spear of this reconfiguration, is the Department of Homeland Security. And incidentally, the chairman, Benny Thompson, is also the chair of the Homeland Security Committee. And the Homeland Security group has really played a huge role in persecuting this domestic war on terror, as it's called.
That all ends on November 8th because they're getting blown out. Okay, Darren, how do people get to you and Revolver? You got to read Revolver every day to keep up with this story.
Go to revolver.news to get caught up on required January 6th reading, and we have a fresh piece, white hot, that compares Joe Biden to Jimmy Carter. And let me tell you, Jimmy Carter comes out far more favorably than Joe Biden. So check that out and let us know what you think.
The next one you're going to do for me is Buchanan versus Biden, but that's a topic for a different day. Darren Beattie, thank you very much. Appreciate it, brother. I want to go to our international bureau in Rome. Ben, we've got so much to go through, but I got to ask you, you've been following this somewhat. Russia, Germany, countries like that, Italy, they're used to show trials. Give me your quick take on what do you see of this 6 January hearings?
Well, it's giving lots of news that just fulfills the globalist agenda, Steve, dominating the European press, especially our headlines to do with Ivanka saying that she concurred straight away with Bill Barr's designation of the thesis as bullshit. That kind of thing really does confirm the narrative that the mainstream media has been pushing for the last year and a half, that the theory that January the 6th was simply the theory that it was a full-on insurrection. It gives massive weight to that when you have all of these, and I use inverted commas, Republicans quite close to Trump and his orbit, people who are appointed by him. It gives that thesis a lot of credibility, and of course, the mainstream media isn't letting this opportunity pass by.
Ben, I know we got a couple of detailed stories about DHL. I think we're going to have to get to the mark because I got to ask you this. You got me early yesterday morning with the Sunday Mail's lead picture of Kyiv. It looked like Miami Beach with the umbrellas out and the people on the river, the Dnieper. Walk us through that. I thought this was a war-torn land where everybody's on tension. We just sent $40 billion over there. Eric Prince is saying they're already begging for more money. How do we have that juxtaposition? How did you have that picture that you picked up so quickly on the cover of the Daily Mail that showed not just a sunny day at the beach? It looked like you could have been in Cannes or Monaco or Southern California. It looked like you're in Manhattan Beach, California. How could we have a war-torn land where everybody's worried about Russians bombing them and have something that looks like Miami Beach?
Well, it's a very good question, and I spent the better part yesterday, Steve, about 4 or 5 hours going through all the like 1,500 comments that came in on Getter, asking questions like that. And very helpfully, a number of active Getter users were sending in photos of the Normandy beach landings and pointing out that they couldn't see any holiday goers there as an interesting juxtaposition. of what an actual country in wartime looks like, with genuine military invasions. It's just no, it's a good point, and it leads to the question that perhaps, and this is something I did say on Getter straight away, that I think America has been played here. I'm not saying that Russia isn't in the country bombarding cities. It is. I think the photos there are genuine and are serious, but that doesn't represent the totality of the story in Ukraine. I think there are two different lives going on in Ukraine. The problem for us here in the West is that our media, coming back to the mainstream media, is very carefully curating a certain image of what is going on, which is one of apocalypse, doom, and destruction across the whole country, to maximize the take of our tax money that our sociopathic globalist elites are confiscating from us in order, so they say, to give to President Zelensky. I think the whole thing is, yet again, just like on the back of COVID in the last cycle, the whole thing seems to be the old adage of never let a good crisis go to waste. Only now that it's been moved up a step, and if the crisis isn't actually there, help it along a little bit, and then get some more money.
Ben, your Getter is become a go-to place. Give your Getter and your other social media, but on your Getter, it's amazing. How do people get to you?
Thanks, Steve. Well, if folks on the War Room Posse like my hits on the show, then I'm better on Getter. If you go to getter.com or to the app, go straight to the search box. I do point out that you've got to go to @Harnwell and get the account with the little V, the little red V, the verified account, because there are imposters there, but I'm there 24/7 pushing out my analysis.
If you got imposters, that means you're getting it done. Ben Harnwell, we'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll be back at 10 a.m. We're going to do a lot about Bill Barr and a lot about this phony investigation committee, whatever it's called. See you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. You'll be back in the War Room.